MiCA regulation. What has actually changed for crypto in Europe? The European Union has made the biggest regulatory change in the history of cryptocurrencies. From now on, it is no longer enough for a cryptocurrency exchange or company to simply exist or to operate from any EU member state. To legally provide services to users across the European Union, MiCA CASP license. But what does this mean for users? Which companies have received permission? Which have not? And will all this, and how will it reflect on Serbia and the Balkan countries? I talk about that in today's video. What is MiCA? MiCA, or Marketing Crypto Asset Regulation, represents the first unified law of the European Union that regulates the cryptocurrency market. Until now, each country had its own rules. Germany one, France another, Italy third. Now there is a unified system for the entire European Union. If a company or cryptocurrency exchange obtains a MiCA license in one EU member state, it can provide services practically throughout the EU through a so-called passporting system. That is one of the biggest advantages of this regulation. What does MiCA require from crypto companies? For a company, cryptocurrency exchange, to obtain a license, it must meet a large number of requirements. First of all, the identity of the owners must be fully known. The company must have adequate capital. User funds must be separated from the company's funds. There must be procedures for user AML and KYC. Procedures become strictly mandatory. The regulator must have the ability to oversee operations. The company must have a risk management and cybersecurity plan. In other words, European regulators want the crypto industry to operate much more similarly to traditional financial institutions. Is that good or not? And given that we have received the application of the MiCA regulation from July 1, 2026, who received a MiCA license to operate concerning the European Union? During 2025 and 2026, a large number of crypto companies successfully obtained the MiCA CASP license or operate through licensed European entities. Among the well-known names regarding cryptocurrency exchanges are Coinbase, Kraken, Bitstamp, Bitpanda, OKX Europe, Crypto.com, eToro, Revolut, Nexo. Of course, the list of such companies is constantly expanding as national regulators issue new licenses that then enter the official ESMA register. And these are just some of the most well-known companies that, at the time of recording the video, managed to obtain the MiCA CASP license. However, there are also those who are currently operating without a license. Of course, at the time of recording the video, the most attention was drawn to platforms that have not completed the process or have lost the ability to legally provide certain services to users in the European Union. Among them are cryptocurrency exchanges, MEX, cryptocurrency, HTX, Bitcade in certain phases of the process, for example. The most interesting is that Binance, in certain countries, had regulatory issues and withdrew requests. And it remains to be seen whether they will adapt to the way of doing business in the European Union. And it is important to emphasize that the regulatory status can change, so it is best to check the official ESMA register. When you hear who has received a license, who has not, what does that mean for you users? For the ordinary investor, there are two sides to the coin. On the positive side, greater user protection, clearer rules, greater transparency, less room for fraud, easier dispute resolution. And on the other side of this coin is more KYC procedures, less anonymization. Some services will no longer be available to EU citizens. Now we come to the part, how does the MiCA regulation affect the Balkans? Considering that I am in Serbia, Serbia is not yet in the EU. Here we come to the question that many ask, does MiCA apply to Serbia? The answer is no directly. Serbia is not a member of the EU, which means that MiCA is not automatically part of Serbian legislation. However, a large number of domestic users use European cryptocurrency exchanges. If a cryptocurrency exchange decides to limit operations due to regulatory reasons or change the terms of use for countries outside the EU, in the coming years, domestic regulations will increasingly align with European rules. This is a completely normal process of approaching European financial standards. Is this good or bad? It depends on which angle you look at it from. If you are a long-term investor, greater legal certainty can be good news. If you are an advocate of complete decentralization and anonymity, you will probably consider that the MiCA regulation brings more control than freedom. The truth is probably somewhere in between. The crypto market is entering a new phase where regulated companies will have an increasing advantage, while crypto platforms that do not want regulatory oversight will find it increasingly difficult to operate in Europe.